Today at the Cabana, we sat down with the radiant and brilliant Claudia Black. She's an actress, a storyteller, and now a certified somatic experiencing practitioner. Claudia opens up about her unforgettable red carpet moment at this year's Emmys. She talked to us about the ever-evolving landscape of Hollywood and her own personal journey that led her into her deep healing trauma work. It's an inspiring and insightful conversation about resilience, reinvention, and the power of coming home to your body. My name is Zoe Scott, and this is my podcast, Confessions at the Cabana. I was born in England, and I chased my dreams across the ocean, landing in America, and then driving all the way to California to live my rock and roll life. I've journeyed from living in the wild to lighting up the stages all around Los Angeles, and I've got plenty of stories to share. But this podcast isn't about me. It's about creating space for others to share their stories, stories that inspire, stories that bring us together, and stories that heal. So come join us here in Malibu at the Cabana. I love it. So excited to be here with the beautiful, radiant, powerful Claudia Black, and definitely a kindred spirit. And you have a lovely queenly presence. So thank you.
Thank you
For joining us.
So amazing to be here. I'm very lit up and tingly all over.
Oh, and to see you sitting there as the woman on top that's a dream for me. That's a dream for me.
Thank you.
Oh my goodness. Where to begin in the great odyssey and adventure of beautiful Claudia Black? There's so many amazing elements to your life, but I guess we should start at the beginning to give everybody, who's starting at their beginning, a little bit of inspiration. Where did all this begin? You were raised in Sydney, Australia, right?
I sure was, with Bondi sand in between my toes, although I preferred the warmer water. So we share the Pacific Ocean with California, and it was always a little bit too cold for me. And it was funny going back with my own sons. I have two beautiful cubs who are now almost fully grown.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
How old are they?
So Odin is about to turn 20 and Vigo's about to turn 18. And it's a massive threshold for us and a big achievement to have gotten to where we have. And they're really emerging in this really delicious way. And it's really shifted me because I've been in this long game, big battle of my life. And I know we want to start at the beginning, but it's just beautiful to be here and to be able to speak from the scars and not an open wound.
That's what we're all about at the Cabana. Bring it on. Bring it on, Claudia. So I know I read that in your early years, you were in a lot of Australian TV, the kind we watch in London.
Oh my God, yeah. So
Home and Away.
I played Sandy on Home and Away. And
yeah.
I remember costumes saying, we were shooting it in the winter or the autumn in Australia. And they said, so we're going to put you in this LBD, this little black dress. And I said, really? And they said, oh, yes, every day is a summer day in Summer Bay. And so I was awakened to the whole aspirational aspect of life on television and the way characters are depicted.
Gosh, what did that mean to you, or how did that feel? It sounds very new. You were obviously quite young.
Yeah, I was. And I was very privileged. I had a very privileged education. I wasn't tertiary educated. I was undiagnosed with all these learning disabilities and challenges, but the school catered to me.
Me too, actually.
Really?
I wasn't good at reading.
Yeah. No, nightmare.
My grammar is still,
Yeah. And it's causes so much shame, and the shame is so inhibiting that it's a wonder that we found something and someone, little earth angels along the way that probably just said, keep going, just keep doing it.
Just
don't give up.
My way was like, I am getting the hell out of Dodge.
Oh, yeah.
What about you? I was like, there's,
Yeah.
I have a creative spirit. Maybe I'm not the best at spelling. I'm not the best at grammar or reading, but I have something to say to the world.
Exactly right. And, when you think about it from a primal sense, and since a lot of women like us are rewilding, we're
Rewilding. I love that term.
yeah, going back to our real essence and what we're supposed to be, in that innocence that is not framed in a religious sense, but the real innocence of us being pure light and fun and
Women
creativity.
that ran with the wolves.
That's right.
Or run with the wolves, right?
Yes.
So did that rewilding start for you back in Australia? I know you've got the amazing Aboriginal culture all around you. Were there seeds of that early on in your...
Yeah, definitely. I think that I've always been feral. We've always been lucky. It's stolen land, though, of course. So I think as whiteness is waking up to its responsibility in Australia and around the world, very much acknowledging that, we were surrounded by nature in Australia, and a lot of it isn't habitable. So I think something like 80% of the Australian population lives about 15 minutes from the ocean or something. I can't remember what the statistic is, because my left brain is completely empty. Just so you know, that there might be an Airbnb guest coming in any minute now, because I'm renting it out as
Your left
usable space. My left brain
is the analytical side, right?
Nothing
Yes.
in there.
So you work more from the... I'm like that. From
Entirely.
Well, this is going to be fun, right? Because if I'm coming from the right and you're... No wonder my producer was like, keep it on track.
She's the left brain of this operation.
Yeah, she's like...
That's what I need. And I keep collecting these glorious people who inhabit the right, highly relational.
Yeah, but then you need, my guy is very left brain, so you
yummy.
need actually some of that as well.
And I've learned now, if I am looking to partner with someone eventually, at some point, they're going to have that left brain capacity.
Right.
They're going to have to be earthy, because I'm so air and water. I'm sort of...
You like to flow, do you? Is that partly why? Because I read that you've lived in... Well, you grew up in Australia.
Yeah.
You've lived in London, Spain.
Yeah.
Where else was it?
New Zealand.
New Zealand.
Twice.
And
that might be happening
so
again.
that's part... You're a bit of a nomad. You flow around the globe, do you, with your creative muse?
But I also think there were all these sort of stories that people tell about Australians. One is that I was told, I don't think it's anatomically exactly correct, but one is the reason why the emu and the kangaroo are on our coat of arms is that they lack the tendon that would enable them to walk backwards, and that Aussies are always looking forwards. I'd always loved that. And so when people would say, would you do theatre? I go, fuck no, because I'd be doing the same thing every night, and I think I'd want...
that was like me. I trained as an actress in London, and they want you to do Shakespeare. I want me to do Basic Instinct.
No, exactly right. Kill me.
Right, so you love the forward,
Yes.
which is similar to California.
Right. Very similar. I know that there's a real beauty in slowing down and paying attention and being present to the moment and how it can be different. I do love that. But for me, ending up in television and in Australia, where we do it not necessarily well, but very quickly, that very much matched my nervous system at the time, which was, it's a race, right? And I finished first.
Brilliant. Okay.
Let lunch break early, guys, because I've got it in one take.
We would see where we are now.
Second takes are for dickheads. But not necessarily well, but, and understanding now from a nervous system perspective that it never felt safe to slow down and pay attention. But TV in the moment, these types of experiences where the space has been formatted and everyone understands the brief that this is where the attention needs to be.
Right.
This ends up becoming incredibly medicinal and meditative for me.
Right. So there's medicine in that.
Enormous. I got chills.
Because you're not running on ahead. You have to be in the moment. Because I noticed that about some of your beautiful performances. In the Sci-Fi and is it called The Nevers?
Yes.
You were incredibly present. And so that's wonderful to know, because I think every kind of art form, you and I were talking a bit on the phone about from trauma to creativity, it presents some kind of catharsis to the artist. So that's nice. And what else is cathartic to you about acting?
Good question. It took me years to admit this, but I'm a channel, and I didn't know there wasn't wording for that. You would, of course. Like music, when you hear those famous artists say, well, I wrote this song in 3 minutes, it just came through me. I feel that these characters come to me. And it's not as if they're, in some totally woo-woo way, I hear a voice say, pick me. But suddenly when I would read something, I would say, oh, I know her.
Right.
And there's obviously aspects of me.
I
that,
find I feel that about the guests that are coming here to the Cabana. As soon as I saw Chris, your wonderful manager, posting something about us, like, I know her. We got to get her here. That's lovely, isn't it? Soul contracts.
And that, exactly.
Spirits.
Oh, obsessed.
Darling.
There's so many things you and I are going to talk about. Promise me this is not the only time we meet, because my FOMO is already
meeting for years to come.
Oh, should I be so lucky?
Oh, yes. You do have this powerful presence and this sort of, yes, I would say powerful, quietly powerful, and sometimes less quietly powerful.
Right.
Playing a warrioress, and you come across as very powerful. Where has that inner power come from? What are the secrets of the radiant Claudia Black, who has brought her to this moment where she's about to have this great success with Spartacus? You were just in vogue for being the most beautiful woman on the red carpet.
I was in a lovely collection of people, and it's a funny little story, if I may.
Go for
Talk about secrets in the Cabana. This is a juicy one. So my manager, Chris, and I, yes, here's my confession. Respectfully, though, because we did not plan this at all. And it speaks to your question about what makes me radiate. And, when I'm plugged in, I'm plugged in. And it's not me. It's something running through me. I'm one human, and I don't think that there's anything that makes me special. I'm wanting to be in my uniqueness, but I don't think I'm in rarefied air in any means. But by any means. But my manager and I have worked together for almost 20 years, or at least 20 years now. Heavily pregnant with my first child when he and I met at Chateau Marmont. And my Emmy's confession is that my manager and I, Chris, he mentioned that he was going to the Emmys with Tame, who was on season 3 of White Lotus. And I just had this knowing. And I would say that's part of my radiance, is when I'm in my knowing, I will just have this incredible, what people call clairsentience. I just have this bizarre, quiet, hard yes in my body. And I know that's what I have to do. And I just looked at Chris, we were on the FaceTime, and I said, I have to come to the Emmys. I wasn't invited. We didn't have an air date at that point for House of Usher, which is now starting December 5th, everybody.
Wonderful. I'm excited.
So after I said I need to come, he just said, all right, let's just figure it out. And he said, let me ask Tame, see if it's okay if we can crash his ride and all that stuff. And Tame was so sweet about it.
Oh.
We ended up taking him to In-N-Out, and I bought him a T-shirt when he was in his tub.
I saw those pictures.
Like
I saw the fries as well at the bottom of the
fell
car.
on the floor, call 911. What a disaster and an emergency. Tragedy, real crime to drop those In-N-Out fries. Anyway, we show up. Chris wasn't given a credential for the red carpet to take his own client down. Tame was very in demand, but didn't have his person with him to take him down the red carpet. It was crazy. And when you request, it's like VIP lists or getting into clubs. And, I've gone through this shit since I was 14. It's like, I don't want to be there.
Yeah,
trying to get into the room where it's happening. So it's like it either happens or it doesn't. I had a vision for how I wanted my hair and makeup to be. I contacted a woman who'd done this amazing hairdo, if you mean. Thank you. I was on the team. So I can't take responsibility for it, for much of it. But I contacted this woman who I'd met who had done my hair for a charity event. So she'd volunteered her services for that. And she'd done this amazing thing with my own hair. There were no extensions or anything. And I said to her, will you come and do that again for me one day? Paid work for something special. And I contacted her. She contacted me during the fires and said, I'm thinking of you. Are you okay? And I said, we had to evacuate, but we're okay. Thank you. I live in the Hollywood Hills where we were close to the Runyon fire, but nothing like down here.
Yeah.
Which I wanted to ask about. But just to tie this thread off, Chris and I, the long and the short of it is I asked my son, who's very into fashion now, if he would style me because he's applying for fashion schools.
I love that. I read that. And even my guy read that. And he was like, oh, look, her son style. What kind of styling does he love to do?
I mean, he's very much into the archival stuff. And what's weird is there's a part of him that's always known. I've had my whole life, I've been quite a tomboy, but the origin of that started at age 14.
Really?
Very catalytic a moment in my life.
What happened at age 14?
My heart was truly broken by somebody in a really cruel and public way, and it caused so much shame. My father's I would say, an unwell person, emotionally and psychologically, and completely untreated. But
Was he a drinker as well, or?
No, thankfully not. But I am a 12-step kid because someone sort of picked me up by my scruff and plonked me in a 12-step room and said, I think you should be here.
Oh.
And I couldn't believe with people's shares how they seemed to be describing my entire personality. And I was like, oh, so here's codependency. Now I'm starting to understand the way I move in the world and why.
Wow.
Yeah, it was big. I was with a bunch of girls doing the Mikado, and we all looked very similar. We turned up accidentally wearing very similar clothing.
God, I even did the Mikado as a girl.
God, did you pay?
I can't remember. I remember 3 little girls from 4.
3 little maids from school. I
remember singing that.
I was the mezzo. I was Pity Singh. You probably were the soprano. Were you?
It was pretty high. I remember that.
Yeah. Funny. So without getting too sidetracked, my mum had gone away and she was traveling a lot. My dad had always wanted a son, and I could feel his kind of disappointment of not being able to have a lad.
Oh.
And there was just this moment where I went, fuck this, and I cut off my hair. I felt like I had to somehow defend myself against all of these horrific feelings that I was having to have on my own.
Oh.
And with my mum away and other things happening, I felt like I couldn't tell anyone about the heartbreak. And it was a real heartbreak.
Wow.
And my dad at the time was he had OCD untreated, and he would never let me touch any of his equipment. And he has this massive jazz collection, amazing albums.
Wow.
It's in his will. It's a whole thing. It's a real audiophile. Introduced me to music in this beautiful way, into photography, which I love and have an interest in.
Wow, creative.
So yeah, it was this beautiful, the ways that my dad saw me was really beautiful, but so it also...
But you felt like you had to be a boy.
Yeah, I had to armor myself against the world.
It's ironic because you are so beautifully feminine.
Now.
But it's taken a journey, has it?
Decades.
So the healing isn't recent. You have decades and decades of working on yourself.
I would say my career saved my life and got me up in the morning and gave me things to do, because a lot of my friends were getting heavily into the drug scene. And they would say, come on, we're going to go and have some fun and it's going to be great. And I'd say, no, I'm going to bed. I've got an audition. And so that was really extraordinary for me.
That's a very good lesson to remember, isn't it?
Hugely.
Was acting like a passion for you from the beginning, or was
Yeah, I mean, singing was my first love. Music found me very early.
Right.
Acting did too. So like in kindergarten, I mean, when you read all my report cards, it was all neurodivergence. She's very chatty. She's amazing when she's actually on topic and engaging, very highly engaging with the teacher in the class, really isn't realizing her full potential, isn't handing in her homework. And girls just weren't diagnosed in those days.
So that's like ADHD?
And probably AUDHD. So I have a lot of crossover with autism symptoms as well.
Wow.
But there's also this massive, in the Venn diagram of trauma and neurodivergence, there's such an overlap in that as well.
But yet nobody told you at that time, and nobody knew how to probably even treat that at that time.
Right. And my best friend at the time, who was in the musicals from the boys' side at the boys' school, rampant ADHD and very clear and hyper. I was more inattentive. And my sensitivity over time has only grown. So I'm much more sort of have, what do they call it? Misophonia. When people sort of play me a clip on their smartphone, I feel like I need to die. Because of the sound through the compressor.
No, I know when my nervous system gets raw.
Yeah.
I feel exactly the same.
Yeah.
It's a lot coming at us, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right.
Going back to the Emmys.
All right, let's finish the Emmy story. So the dirty,
and then
quick
we'll
and
go
dirty
into the healing.
Yes.
We get into the...
So the quick and dirty story about the Emmys is I tell my manager I need to go to the Emmys. I just have this feeling. I ask my son to style me and he's like, grumpy teen. I said, it's a big deal to style someone for the Emmys. And he says, not when it's your mum. I said, it's still a bloody big deal. It's the Emmys, for God's sake. And my career has been put so on hold for so long and I've made so many sacrifices. I was like, this is my time to reemerge. And there was,
Important, I don't know, the
Yes.
fact you made that clear.
yes, and he really heard it. And he and I have I have gorgeous soul contracts with my sons. Thank God, thank everything holy. Because I get to have after everything we've been through, I get to have a really gorgeous, yummy time with them now. And they
That's
really are a
lovely.
source of true happiness for me. And so collaborating with him, it was like, come on, just take the carrot and let's have an amazing, expansive experience together. Just nibble, and I promise. And it could not have borne better sort of results or fruit. In that, my son and I go to this vintage place. A dear friend of mine makes a referral for us. We went to The Way We Wore. This woman's very famous, Doris, for having this gorgeous collection of really rare pieces. And for the first time, she decided to open up some of her collection to the public for sale or use. And she let my son into the room.
Wow.
And so while I was,
The doors are opening, right?
that's right. And that's what I found so gorgeous with my sons when we're on this odyssey together. The world opens up and people start rallying like a village to help me and my kids. It's been really powerful. So she says, if you don't mind, I'm going to steal Vigo and show him some things. She said, what's he into? And I said, well, he loves like the archival Margiela stuff. And she took him into this room and I don't hear from him. I'm trying on dresses and the guy who's helping me is like, well, it looks good on you. But I said, I'm not sure. And then Vigo just comes strutting down the hallway with this suit on a hanger and he says, this is it, pop it on. And I pop the suit on, it absolutely fits.
Wow. So then he was part of the destiny
Totally.
for you to get onto the pages of Vogue as the most beautiful woman.
One of. But it was just really funny because I'm being told culturally at the moment that I'm kind of irrelevant. I sort of had to walk off a show / was let go, fired because they wanted to pay me a day rate and I haven't been paid a day rate since I was 20.
Oh, God.
It was so disrespectful. I said, I'm an unpartnered mother. It takes 5 to 7 people to replace me if I have to shoot in London when I'm based in LA. You can't pay me that. And they said, okay, bye.
Do you think the TV business is in as bad a state?
Yeah, it's
I mean,
not
that's
great.
what brings Deanna and I to sit here podcasting because we were both pitching TV shows and she was working on TV shows. Is as bad as everybody said.
Yeah, because of COVID and then the strikes, it was like a 1-2 punch, and now it feels as if we're being punished for the strikes, and so now I think the conversations in those big rooms is things like they should be lucky to have a job, they should be lucky to work for the studio. This is a big branded studio. They will want to have this on their resume. They will take a hit financially to do this. But the reality for someone like me is you don't understand my life, yet you're branded as a family studio and you're not willing to consider.
Understand that you're a single mom.
That's right. And with the first season, I had to try and explain that to them, and I took the hit for precisely the reasons they were describing. Lucky to have work, lucky to be working on this. But it hurt me financially and energetically. I was wiped.
Exhausted.
Burnt me out trying to do all of the things and work at the same time.
How do you take your power back in a situation like that? Do you
Say no. It's the most powerful word. And it feels like that then hurts me twice. But I also trust energetically that by saying no to this, it makes space for the other things to come in. And now I'm, running on either fumes or faith. So I'd rather run on faith than fumes. They're too toxic.
What a wonderful saying.
And so back to the Emmys. Tame lets me catch a ride with him, hitch a ride to the red carpet. And then Chris, my manager, is denied access. So he says, all right, well, we'll just do our thing. So we're walking adjacent to the red carpet. And the executives that we knew from the network and from the show that Tame's on, we'd been chatting in the lobby at the hotel prior. And they signaled us and said, come here, come here. And there was like a room at the end of the red carpet and where we were. We didn't know what we were doing. We follow in. And we'd been invited in by them. And it was a step and repeat air-conditioned room. And I'm hot flashing, so I'm so delighted in this suit to be in this room. And I sort of put my stuff down. And the executives are having a photo taken together against this small step and repeat. And then Chris says, go on then. And I went, oh. So I didn't have a photo taken with them. I was standing there by myself and I'm trying to pose. So we're denied the red carpet. We end up in this step and repeat. And then we walk out of it and suddenly we're in a bar and they're offering these mocktails and Chris hands me one and I have one. And then we look down and there's red under our feet. And then we turn to my right, his left, and we realize we're on the red carpet.
Oh my God, it's like the Wizard of Oz. It's
completely.
It's totally like Dorothy, click your heels and you'll be home.
The red road, the yellow brick road, it's right there. So we're like, well, let's just reverse engineer it. So we start walking back up.
Did you actually walk backwards?
Mm-hmm. No. Well, no, but we just,
Do what you're going to do.
Yeah. And then at the governor's ball, I think it was about 9 o'clock at night, I get a text from a very witchy friend in New York who felt compelled to Google me. And then she sent me a text saying I was on a Vogue list. And I was like, what? And I tugged Chris's arm and said, we made Vogue. I don't understand. And I was trying to sort of figure out what it said. And then I clicked on this list that had all these other gorgeous people on it. And then number 8 or whatever I was out of 13 people, there I am, Best Beauty, which means the gorgeous hair and makeup job that these amazing technicians had done for me.
It sounds like you are someone who has cultivated tuning into that incredible inner voice, that instinct that when you get that kind of God shot or that goddess shot, which is like, I got to do this. How long have you had that? Has it been
my whole life?
Your whole life.
And it's what steered me because I'm an untrained actor, always been feral in that sense and just that little wild barefoot Australian.
At what point in your life did you go from being, a performing artist to also a healing artist? What has that journey been like?
My joke is that I fell out of the tree of life and hit every single branch on the way down. That was at 40.
I think we've all done that from time to time.
Yeah, and I think that's the Persephone Inanna
me
myth,
too,
right?
42, I hit every branch.
Yeah, right?
Right, yeah.
And I'm so glad you made it to here.
Yeah.
So I think because of perimenopause kicking in, I had a lot of latent trauma. We're only now really having a global discussion about what trauma is, what coercive control is, all of these things that can happen, especially when you're neurodivergent and a woman. You are primed, this is what I would say, primed for predation. So there were all these things that occurred in the business. I was severely Me Too'd. I was propositioned by a pedophile when I was really young. There were all these things that happened along my path. But, there were just all these things that happened where my nervous system, to sort of slightly butcher a Jung quote, was choosing what was actually familiar, but thinking it was fate. So there's a Jung quote, which isn't exactly verbatim, until we make the unconscious conscious, we are doomed to repeat the same mistakes, but call it fate.
Wow.
So that describes the first 20 years of my life or 30 years of my life. And so for me, I became kind of desperate to heal because the suffering was so great.
Right.
That it needed to stop somehow. And I realized I was the only one who could really, re-steer the ship. And so I ended up becoming like that little animal in the children's book, Are You My Mother? Where I would go, are you my healer? Is this the thing that will help me? Are you going to? So my attachment
wounds. You were putting your power, you were outsourcing your power.
Very extra. That's actually.
And finding it within yourself.
Yes. And at the same time.
It's a dangerous thing to do.
Very.
Especially in a place like, were you in LA when this was all going on?
Oh, God. So there's the guru traumas, there's the spiritual traumas, the cult traumas, it was just a swathe of seeker traumas, right?
How the hell, how do you survive somewhere like Hollywood? How do you survive something like, the movie and TV industry? Has it been cleaned up?
Getting there.
Has the Me Too movement shifted the dial a bit?
It has. And so what the evidence of that, and it's one of my favorite tools in trauma healing is, when triggers come up, when PTSD comes up, it's younger parts of us are being sort of tugging on our sleeve to say, it was crap last time and we don't feel safe again. What is the evidence that things have changed? So it's important for people to know in their bodies as artists that things are changing. We have intimacy coordinators, which is game-changing to an extent.
What does an intimacy coordinator do?
So when you are performing an intimate scene that may involve kissing, physical touch, maybe simulated sex, there is someone who is employed, and this is where it gets a little interesting. They're employed really, I think, by the studio.
Yeah.
To be a safeguard as someone who mediates and helps. They're in service of the characters' arcs and what those intimate moments mean to drive the story forward. So they're trying to find the ways in which that intimacy is necessary for the storytelling, because there's a lot of unjustified, raunchy stuff that then leads to minimal boundaries and people actually getting harmed in these spaces.
I mean, you have to learn about really good boundaries and really finding a team like you found Chris.
Yeah.
People who will really protect you. And that's
True.
not easy to do right at the beginning, is it?
And I recently did a job where they said, oh, no, don't tell your representation what's happening because then it will get taken up the chain and then the studio will find out and then we won't get renewed. And it's like, are you kidding me? Do you understand that the Me Too movement, that train has left the station now?
So what I get from you, you have actually in you this incredible warrioress and this, I think you're called a peacekeeper.
That's right. Yeah.
And so it seems like to me that some of the parts you play really resonate with different parts of your being. Am I getting it right? Or
Absolutely.
Are they totally...
I'm learning that to be my full self, unapologetically loud and proud, it then gives other people permission. And I've also learned that there's an initiating aspect to my presence. So I don't actually have to drag someone along for their entire healing process. Part of my awakening and coming into somatic work was someone in the hallway at my kids' school saying, you need to go to this, it was just a very intuitive moment. She said, how are you? And I went, I was trying to hold it all in and hold it together. And she said, you need to go to the workshop that Gina Ross is doing on people in media and trauma.
Wow.
I just said, okay. And I turned up to the workshop. Gina started to teach us this protocol, which is for panic attacks and anxiety. And
is the term somatic healing or somatic?
Yeah, it's somatic healing, and there are lots of different modalities. I'm not aware of a lot of them, but this particular one in which I'm trained is
so
somatic.
This became like an incredible sanctuary. This modality.
Well, it was a science-based modality of bona fide cure for my traumas. So the whole workshop with Gina Ross was game-changing.
I don't know much about somatic healing.
No.
I've done other healing modalities.
Yeah.
So is it that they need an exhaust pipe, they need a way to release the trauma?
Totally. And the nervous system is designed to heal itself. It's designed to heal us. It's designed to function like a wild animal.
Right.
So Peter Levine's techniques.
Like animals that shake.
Yes, exactly. Shake it off. Sometimes they'll go into reenactment. So once the threat has left, the animal will recircle back physically through all of the key moments of the interaction with the predator. And it helps them integrate the experience cognitively because our cognition goes offline. We go into our limbic system in the fight or flight to survive the stressful event. And then once it's done, it's supposed to our cognition is supposed to then come back online to help us have proper words and be able to sort of to speak and get more verbal and more integrated back into ourselves. And what happens with humans is we don't want to be primal. We're embarrassed by physical things. We're embarrassed by shaking and trembling and making strange noises. That creates more shame, so we keep it quiet. We suppress it. Mm. And then that stays in us in a latent way for decades, potentially. But it's always looking for an exit sign. So any kind of visceral sensations we get, right? So once we start understanding visceral sensation as some kind of communication system for us, our senses are designed to tell us whether we're safe in a moment or not.
So somatic healing is tuning into your body and the sensations and the places where the trauma is held.
Yes.
And so now you're fully trained.
Yep.
And do you actually do this work?
Yes.
So people can come to you for sessions?
I only do because I need to have safety too. Mm-hmm. There has to be reciprocity in the container for me. And so because I have this gorgeous fan base.
Yes.
I need to know people are coming to me for the right reasons because it would be super fun for people to,
That flipped through my mind the moment I said it. I was like, oh, bloody hell, it could be like the March of the Elephant.
Which is a real shame because my fan base is so respectful. It's everything I love in people. They are respectful, they are brilliant, they are creative, they are kind.
If you get into a situation like, for example, the Palisades fires, when I was here
oh my God,
having a panic attack, sleeping in my dog's bed, with him, you can turn to these techniques in very intense circumstances that could help you get clear enough to make.
Exactly. So I'm feeling something in my throat right away. Your mouth got a little dry, didn't it? Right? As you and that's sympathetic arousal. So would you feel safe enough in this moment to tell me a little bit more about those moments with the fire, like with your dog in the bed, some of the things you were experiencing?
Well, we had no electricity and no gas for the generator, so we really didn't know where it was at with the fire. We didn't know if it was coming towards us or not, and it was pitch black, obviously, in the house, and we felt like we were probably safe out at this point, but there was a sort of unknown, and there were those crazy winds, which felt like they could, I've never experienced anything like that in my life. And I couldn't calm myself down to sleep. Of course, dear Fred is an emotional support dog. And I thought, oh my God, if I can put my head on him and feel his warmth and feel his heart beating, somehow I think I'm going to get through this night. So I did end up sleeping in my dog's bed.
So there you go. So
it's crazy to admit that, isn't it?
No, it's not at all. That makes
I needed a bigger bed as well.
No, that makes perfect. Oh, so in his bed.
Yeah, I slept in the dog's bed one night.
So notice the laughter though. And how do you feel? What do you notice? How do you feel is not a very helpful prompt. What do you notice in the way of sensations in your body as you tell this story?
Well, actually, now I think my body's laughing. It sounds quite comical, but at the time it wasn't at all comical.
No, but you resourced yourself. So what you did, you felt that if you were able to hear his heartbeat and resource with him, you co-regulated together. He got to fulfill his purpose as a familiar, which is woo-woo language, but I think it resonates. Imagine if it might have been useful to get on the phone if you'd had electricity and say, I'm really scared, and talk to your best mate about it. And maybe they would have resourced you by making
everybody was really scared. So I didn't think.
So you were in a collective.
It didn't help talking to others in some ways because,
That's a very important point. This is a really crucial point, especially right now in the collective, is that leaders and people in our community are humans with a nervous system. And when we are all dysregulated, where it's catching. And so we are picking up on other people's dysregulation, and we have to learn these techniques, how to ground, how to regulate, understand what's happening in our own systems so that we are a safe enough anchor for someone else, so that we're not all giving up or fighting or fleeing on the same day.
Thank you. I'm going to go and look up somatic healing.
You're already self-soothing down your thighs, which you may not notice is something that you're just naturally doing in that soothing state.
That's wonderful. So I know that one meets many demons around Hollywood, good, bad, even obviously our enemies always teach us a lot. But what about in the healing arts world? Have you ever met anyone who you found unhelpful or?
I have found it sort of takes a certain personality type or types to want to be in Hollywood. And it does attract a lot of narcissism. And we all have narcissism. And there are people who are further along on that spectrum who are manipulative, are coercive. And thankfully, there is more information out there now about what coercive control is, what DAVO is, which is that the acronym that describes when a predator will reverse the victim and offender paradigm and act as if they're being aggressed when in actual fact they're manipulating you, and that's very gaslighting.
Yeah.
There's a lot of information, a lot of resources online now.
You really want to get out of Dodge when you start to experience that, right?
That's right. But I think one of the most empowering things is that because there's so much information out there now, because there are some very prominent figures in culture right now do carry these narcissistic traits. A lot of healing from these people when we encounter them is about pattern recognition. And so they really do play from a textbook. And once we can educate ourselves on, and they tend to go for, it's not a woman's vulnerability or the fact that something's wrong with them. It's everything that's right about that woman that appeals to the man, because they kind of want to suck you dry and take all of your light and somehow eat it. So we talk about energetic vampires. They're choosing you because you're glorious. I want people to know that you've been chosen by this unwell person because they want your light. if you can get familiar with these sort of patterns of behavior, the way they love bomb and then they discard you and then they vacuum you back in again. There's like a push.
You could have a whole blog about this.
Right.
You could educate.
Well, there's a lot of people who are talking about this now. So there are a lot of resources and a lot of information now. But I have definitely experienced people in every sector of community very close to home, which then became familiar in me to being severely sexually harassed in the workplace, in the entertainment business.
I'm so sorry about that.
Thank you.
So sorry. Yes.
It was very prevalent, but the good news is, and the evidence is, that people are trying to make a difference, and I feel like after all my years of experience, I'm on that threshold of being able to speak up and help create a healthier industry.
That's wonderful. What are the kind of roles are you dying to play?
Thank you for asking. Oh my God.
I mean, I see the queen, I see the shamaness, the shapeshifter. I see so many. What is it you're dying to do from the heart? Who do you want to, what do you want to create from your artist self and your healing self?
I think I've naturally been given and gifted very high status characters. And I think I received that from the matriarchal line in my family, because these women were told yes in ways like my mum was told yes, be an academic by her father. And my grandmother was this really powerful matriarch. And she was an arts teacher and an English teacher, and she sort of groomed us to not have a really, we didn't talk strine when we were growing up. We had to speak round and forward. So she wanted us to be able to walk into rooms and be self-possessed.
So that's where your incredible presence comes from, is it? That encouragement and that?
I think it was adopting that masculine part of myself that made me grounded, because there was no one around that was grounded enough to create a container and say, hey, kid. Like, people didn't pick me up by the scruff and put me in a safer room. And the thread of my trauma story or narrative was help never came.
And I think I read somewhere that you had an experience actually with a shaman or a healer who was quite coercive and manipulative.
A few really. And there's a book, I've forgotten what it's called, and I started to read it years ago and didn't finish reading it. But they were academics who were studying shamanism, and in their science-based, in their research, they found that about statistically 4 out of 5 shamans, indigenous shamans, were not using their powers for the greater good.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So
Bummer.
So it's dangerous terrain. And I think for me, because I'm so beyond it now, it was an initiating process to be able to discern and say, this is not for me, and be able to leave those spaces. Well,
I think there's a bit, in my experience, I've spent a lot of time with people in the healing arts. Sometimes there can be that sort of, that will to power that someone wants to be a guru over, and rather than someone getting a direct connect to their light, to their God, their universe, their love, they want to be that go-between.
They place themselves as the middleman, which is the dangerous part. And that's what happens with religion too. If you pay me, then I'll have a chat with Jesus, who's my mate, and maybe we'll give you a healing. And and really what we need to do is just be talking to Christ consciousness ourselves.
Yes.
There should be no middleman. That's the problem. And that's a cautionary moment. It's a red flag.
I mean, sometimes when you have an experience where you get thoroughly manipulated, that is actually when you resort, you come back to your own resources, and you do start connecting to your own intuition, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
So,
you get spirit slapped. That's what I call it.
Spirit slapped, because if the idea is that you become more intuitive, more clear, more powerful in yourself, but you keep giving it away to someone else and saying, hey, you do it for me, you do it for me, in the end, yes.
We have to become the thing that we need.
We have to become the thing that we need. The laws of attraction, which I love to work with.
Love Esther.
I haven't read much Esther.
Esther Hicks.
I haven't actually read, but I just have a sense of using my imagination to create whatever it is I wish to draw in.
And then it doesn't cost a cent. This is how we decolonize healing, is to use our imaginations and our own resources and our community around us We don't need to be paying and outsourcing. We use what's inside us and what's around us. As long as these people are safe enough for us, we have everything.
Did you go through that in acting as well? Was there a period where you really felt like you needed coaches or guides, or were you just always very fierce and intuitive about that process?
I did better without coaches. And once I lost myself and was severely gaslit, I started going to acting classes because I assumed somehow I'd fumbled the ball, and now, like a naughty child, I was going to have to pay for my sins somehow and go and learn how to act now because the first half had been lucky.
I mean, isn't that one of the biggest themes in life, that somehow we neglect what is simplest to us, what is most intrinsic, most natural to us? Isn't that, I mean, again, it's going back to the Dorothy theme, right? All you had to do is click your heels, but somehow you think you've got to, like, I don't know, learn from the best, read this, read that, pay that. You know, I mean, obviously it's always good to really develop your talents and abilities, but it's also just as important to recognize what is intrinsic in your nature, right?
Well, capitalism benefits from us feeling like we're incomplete. And the sooner we come back to ourselves and realize we can become the thing we need, then rather than being hyper independent, we can be independent and what's the other term? Interdependent.
Interdependent.
In a healthy relational reciprocal
Codependent.
field.
So maybe that is the biggest secret of every woman on top. That at some point she's had to come home to herself and trust her own inner knowing, her own talents and abilities to take herself down the yellow brick road.
Indeed. And
or click her heels and go home.
And I would say if we're not really holding our sisters up and supporting them, then we haven't been paying attention. Women were never supposed to be in competition with one another.
We were supposed to be in the groves, right?
Yeah.
Dancing and banging our tambourines.
That's right. Howling under the moon together, and so it is, and so it shall be.
Yes, brilliant. That is wonderful. I think that's what we've been doing here. Yeah. Howling under the moon, right? Together.
Yeah.
Calling to all those wonderful magical energies. What a pleasure.
Oh my gosh, thank you.
You are such an amazing human being.
As you are.
It is like such a pleasure to sit down and talk to you. You are like, actually, as someone said to me recently, you are like the bubbles in the champagne.
Oh, you very much have that in you. That's
yes,
and I'm going to answer your question, even though we've already had a great ending. Oh, this is like where's the Paul Thomas Anderson? We're going to have 5 endings to this movie.
What
is laughing
are the parts you dream? What are the parts you really dream to play?
I really want to do comedy again because it was really in my natural state, and I ended up doing all this drama and playing these tragedy ends who had the first tier scripted, and they were very armoured and austere. And now I want to be in the full mess and glory of who I am and what I've come to do, and I want to play.
You want to play the woman on edge? Oh, what was that? What was that?
Women on the Verge of a Nervous Breakdown, the Almodovar film, I think.
So you want to play something really
just glorious and funny and co-creative and collaborative with other people who are funny, so that I can be in the medicine of humour again. Because what a way to live!
Right, what a way to live, and. One always has to laugh at oneself a great deal, right?
Exactly right. Not take it seriously. And I also want to play a rock star. I think that's on the menu.
Yeah, because
so I'll be calling you.
I have to say, I did it, and it was so much fun.
I mean, you've lived it for everyone else. Thank you. I'm jealous, and thank you for living it for everyone else, that we didn't have to, but also I'll be coming for you when I do it.
Yeah, no, I would really recommend that part. There is nothing like stepping onto a stage with the power of that rock music coming up from under you and grabbing the mic and screaming. It's fun. And of course, the parties at the Chateau Marmotте and, and all the craziness that goes on in rock and roll.
Amazing.
Oh, great. Well, I think I want to play one of your parts.
Oh, my God, yes. You can come and play with me.
The alien goddess.
There you go. All right, we'll write something for you and you can come and play with me. Have a corrective experience of acting with me.
Maybe we need to sort of, like you need to jump into me and I need to jump into you, like some kind of...
Oh, I love that, like a Freaky Friday Malibu twist. Let's do both.
Okay, well, this was marvellous. Thank you so much. I can hear... Dijana from the other room saying, you guys have been having too much fun. You're cut off.
Yes.
Enough. You are one of my favorite women on top. Woo! Great. And I'm really looking forward to seeing Spartacus, the House of Asher. By the way, what part are you playing?
Kasutia, she's the mustache twirling noblewoman who has to duck and weave her way through patriarchy and try and become a woman unto herself.
So you are using your ability to feel your way through the masculine world and...
Yeah, she's got like this big cat energy and she's using her noggin to try and maneuver in a very rigid and structured society.
Wow, fabulous. I can't wait. And what date did you say that was coming out?
December 5th.
I love it. I'm excited.
Just in time for me to do my first ever bloody sex scene when everyone's home at Christmas time with their families. My episode of me doing this sex scene is going to be airing.
Oh my God, I hope he was hot.
Oh my God. God help me, honestly. As I said to my kids, I said, look, the good news is if you want to go to college, I might be able to help you through it. The bad news is your mum's going to be naked on the internet.
Oh my God, who was the co-star that you were having?
He was a lovely dancer, actually. Jeff was gorgeous, and he was because he was so good with his body and such a kind person.
Oh my God, was it nerve-wracking to do a love scene?
Yes, but because we had intimacy coordinators, we were able to have mediation and talk to the director about what our boundaries were, what we were comfortable with and what was needed, and how to sort of collaborate to make it something. I wanted it to be artful and funny, and I wanted to be a woman. I said it's really important for me to represent a woman in my age group who can experience pleasure. And because I'm
Was he a
interested.
lot younger then?
Yeah. But also it's sort of gross in this era to look at it through that frame because she's a noblewoman and he's a gladiator and he didn't consent to the experience, but it's part of what.
Oh, look, we've totally got so much in common. That was
Cool.
my one part.
Oh, God, I have to watch
Columbia Pictures.
What was
I
the
was
film?
trying to. It was called Age of Treason. I was trying to persuade my elderly husband to give me some of his gladiators.
Dude.
Oh, we'll stop there.